The rivalry between SpaceX and Boeing has the hallmarks of David and Goliath. One is a titan of the industry, the poster child of America's ambitions to explore the cosmos and a key enabler of the Apollo program that landed the first human being on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The other is a young upstart venture run by an eccentric multi-billionaire entrepreneur and made up of a ragtag bunch of engineers, some of whom used to build water towers. But out of a dream of landing a greenhouse on Mars using a converted Russian ballistic missile to kickstart human colonization, SpaceX rose to the top of the world's burgeoning commercial space sector, and now challenges established aerospace legacy companies like Boeing for accolades and NASA funding. Nearly 50 years after Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first person to journey into outer space, a duopoly on American human spaceflight is emerging between the two rivals, with both competing for the spotlight as NASA seeks to return to the moon and send astronauts to Mars for the first time. The two companies have already competed in the high-stakes field of human spaceflight. SpaceX beat Boeing on its own turf in 2020, defying expectations to become the first American mission to deliver astronauts to the International Space Station, or the ISS, since 2010. But the bumper NASA tender that SpaceX won in April 2021 almost proved who is the man and who is the boy. NASA selected SpaceX to land astronauts on the surface of the moon. The contract, worth $2.9 billion, involves the prototype Starship spacecraft that is being tested at SpaceX's South Texas facility. Lisa Watson-Morgan, NASA's Human Landing System Program Manager, said, "Today I'm very excited, and we are all very excited to announce that we have awarded SpaceX to continue the development of our integrated human landing system." SpaceX beats out Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, industry giants Boeing, and defense contractor Dynetics to be the sole provider for the system. A surprising break from the past when NASA has chosen multiple companies in case one fails. Industry analysts said the decision underscores the company founded by Musk in 2002 with the goal of colonizing Mars as NASA's most trusted private sector partner. Under the Artemis program to return humans to the moon, NASA wants to use the Space Launch System rocket to launch 4 astronauts on board an Orion crew capsule, which will then dock with a lunar space station called Gateway. Starship will be waiting to receive 2 crew members for the final leg of the journey to the surface of the moon. The astronauts will then spend a week on the moon before boarding Starship to return to lunar orbit, then take Orion back to Earth. Separately, SpaceX has plans to combine the Starship spaceship with its own Super Heavy rocket to make a combined vessel that will tower 394 feet tall and be the most powerful launch vehicle ever deployed. Humanity last stepped foot on the moon in 1972 during the Apollo program. NASA wants to go back and establish a sustainable presence, complete with a lunar space station, in order to test new technologies that will pave the way for a crewed mission to Mars. All that said, much credit has to be given to Elon Musk and SpaceX for mounting such a challenge against bona fide space giants. No one thought Elon Musk's SpaceX would ever beat Boeing in space. Some members of Congress even wondered why NASA would bother awarding contracts to 2 companies to build capsules to fly astronauts to the International Space Station under NASA's Commercial Crew program. They said to themselves, just let Boeing do it. But from all appearances, SpaceX has won the competition. Publicly, the companies downplay any tension, but the competition has grown bitter over the years, mainly as SpaceX went from a rich man's folly no one took seriously to a disruptor that transformed the aerospace industry. When the contracts for the Commercial Crew program were awarded in 2014, Boeing received the lion's share, slightly more than 60% of the $6.8 billion NASA awarded, getting $4.2 billion compared to the $2.6 billion SpaceX received for the same amount of work. Perhaps that was understandable. SpaceX was considered a risky bet, a wild card whose brash impatience and embrace of failure clashed with the agency's more conservative bent. Top executives urged SpaceX employees to be mouthy, to disregard traditional chains of command, a trait embodied by Musk that made it seem like a rebellious teenager compared to Boeing's father figure of the aerospace industry. But when it came to the task of flying astronauts, SpaceX perhaps had an edge. Since 2012, it has been flying cargo and supplies to the space station, giving it lots of practice in hoisting spacecraft to orbit and having them meet up and dock with the station. Its Falcon 9 rocket now has a lot of heritage, flying missions not just for NASA but for the commercial sector too. It also was perhaps better suited to perform under the strict limitations of NASA's firm fixed-price contract, one that forces contractors to be efficient. That's long been one of SpaceX's trademarks. It reuses not only its rockets, but in the early days, it repurposed all sorts of materials, even a 125,000-gallon liquid nitrogen tank that an employee found scrapped at an old abandoned Cape Canaveral launch site. "We had to be super scrappy," Musk once told the Washington Post. "If we did it the standard way, we would have run out of money. For many years, we were week to week on cash flow, within weeks of running out of money." It definitely creates a mindset of smart spending. Be scrappy or die. Those are our two options. Buy scrap components, fix them up, make them work. Boeing, by contrast, was used to the cost-plus contracts often used on big government programs, such as its Space Launch System rocket, that allowed for greater expenditures and longer timelines. Still, building a spacecraft designed to fly humans is an enormous challenge, and both companies suffered setbacks and delays that pushed back the original launch date from 2017. SpaceX had 2 Falcon 9 rockets explode, and it struggled with the parachute system that slows the spacecraft down as it flies back to Earth. In 2019, its Dragon capsule was completely destroyed during a test of its emergency abort system. Since then, however, SpaceX has discovered the root causes of all problems and fixed them, NASA says. Boeing, meanwhile, has continued to struggle. In late 2019, its test flight without any astronauts on board its Starliner spacecraft went terribly awry from the moment it reached orbit. The spacecraft's onboard computers were off by 11 hours, making the autonomous spacecraft think it was in a different part of the mission. Controllers on the ground had trouble communicating with it. Later, the company discovered another software glitch that would have affected the separation of the crew module from the service module. Inside the company, officials were embarrassed by the setback, another bit of bad news that followed the fatal crashes of 2 737 MAX airplanes. It also triggered a role reversal. Boeing, once the trusted partner, was now under renewed scrutiny by NASA, which said it had been lax in its oversight of the company. One industry official said executives inside Boeing can't accept SpaceX is flying people first. "People are annoyed by Elon. How does this guy who smokes pot beat us?" said the official. Musk once told the Post that SpaceX was able to rise because the big aerospace companies didn't think it would ever amount to anything. "They screwed themselves because they were just arrogant and complacent," he said. "Look, Boeing doesn't get out of bed for less than $1 billion. At the turn of the 21st century, before Musk entered the space business, Boeing was building the International Space Station with NASA, where we've kept astronauts safe and continuously in orbit. While others talk about aspirations and hopes, we actually do things in space and will deliver on our commitment to America's journey to Mars. That's what we get out of bed for." The battle may just be readying. Whichever company wins, maintaining private sector dynamism and limiting government bureaucracy may be the key to future breakthroughs. In any case, the tale of these 2 space flights show that the private sector competition and innovation may soon take humanity to the stars. In your opinion, do you think it's time Boeing relinquishes the mantle to SpaceX? Let us know in the comment section down below. Until next time, thank you for watching.